start. Workshop on disability and discipline, protecting our kids with strategies. Mind Shifted is a parent-led, parent-ran organization here in San Antonio, Texas, that wants you all to have all the information to make sure your kids are successful in schools, especially children that are the most vulnerable. Those are kids with special needs, kids with 504s, kids with language access barriers, and anybody really that needs the support. And as you and I all know, right, there's very little supports for parents. Sometimes you get lucky in a school district, but the majority of the time, we always have difficulty, whether it's with our questions, whether it's getting really actual communication, intentional communication. But today we're going to talk about discipline. Let's get going. All right, so just as another reminder, if you hopped in a little late, I'm entering some people here. If you're hopping in a little late, please ensure that you have all your alerts and notifications on your social media, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. That way you all, when we're posting our workshops, even I'm putting them mostly on Facebook right now, you get access to those notifications. Another place that you need to go look is our website, mindshifted.org. We have a lot of resources that are available. You click them and it's downloadable for you. On our website, we also have a parent portal and we have lessons on our website. So please integrate yourselves. We try to do it the best we can so that you all can do it at your own pace. I know that sometimes we can't meet up. I'm testing Saturday to see how parents do because I know a lot of us work. A lot of parents aren't able to come to our workshops during the day. So this is our first attempt to see if Saturday mornings work. I'm going to probably test out Sunday and maybe some evening classes as well. But we really want to give a variety to our families. If you miss it and you want to see it later, I will be posting it and sharing it. Make sure you have these alerts set up. Today's workshop, we're going to talk about, and here's what we're going to learn: how disability impacts behavior, what is MDR, which is manifestation review, how to prevent your child from being mislabeled, and how to respond strategically as a parent, because it's important that we know what we can do when we are in the situation. And I'm going to be honest, nobody ever expects to be in a situation like this until, right? Until something happens when your child might have hit another child. They're accused of being a bully, but it's part of their disability. Or until, you're seeing a lot of aggression with changes in medication. It just really depends, right? There's so many variables that our kids deal with their disabilities, that it's really important that we start learning how to protect ourselves and protect our kids. And welcome, Jerry. What we're talking about now is going to be behavior, right? And I think the biggest question that I have for you all, and I love these spaces because we can interact as parents and I can learn from you all and you can learn from what I've learned. But think about the behavior, right? Think about maybe your own child's disabilities. Like I mentioned, it could be anything from ADHD, it could be autism, it could be a variety of things. What was a moment maybe in your child's experience, in your experience, where they were acting out, right? Something behavior. And what did you realize that your child needed at that moment, right? So think about a time when your child acted a certain way, they behaved a certain way that you were like, oh no, right? Oh no. But what did they need? Right. And I want you all, and it's an open conversation. So if anybody has anything they're thinking about, hey, David, if they're thinking about, nah, I see you. So if maybe we had an outburst, right? I'll give you examples. I know there's a student that I know that during transition times, right? Usually that's when our kids get really dysregulated. That's the word we want to use, right? We're not regular. Our brain is excited. It's not focused. Those moments are like transition moments, right? Those are moving from classroom to lunch or from one class to another, or even after school, right? When they're leaving their environment. Those are moments when our kids face a lot of anxiety, social anxiety, and sometimes it's excitement, right? I'm gonna be honest, like I just got diagnosed with ADHD and I didn't realize that I use this term in Spanish, me engento. It's too much people, right? It's just too much excitement. I need to get out of there. But then it also gets me excited and I'm like, hey, what's up? ¿Qué onda? Right? Like I'm starting to talk to all my friends. Like it's just hyped up. A lot of our kids get triggered in those moments of anxiety and stress and they don't realize it. And then they start doing things that maybe they didn't think they were going to do, right? Like they open a door, they go into a classroom, they get in trouble, um, things like that, right? So those could be considered behavioral abnormalities, I would say. And I hate using that word, but like they're just not regulated, right? They're not regular behaviors. And that's when our kids could get flagged. But in those moments, I realize, right? Okay, my child is high social anxiety. He's probably acting really out of his normal, right? And he probably needs to either take a pause, be removed from that moment, get ahead of the moment, get out of that classroom before everybody else does. Like there's other things that I know we could do to possibly get my child not to be dysregulated. Does anybody have um any experiences, right, and behavior that you have faced and then you realize, oh, this is what he needed, but he acted in a certain way? Let's see if there's anybody that has anything. Jerry? Tell me, Jerry.
Oh, is my audio on?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, I didn't know. Sorry, I'm doing dishes.
No worries, no worries. We're all doing something on Saturday.
Yeah, no, sorry. Well, first, we just woke up at
Yeah.
10:45. I did rather. I had a bad night with the storm today with a sinus headache at 2 in the morning. Then woke up stuffy and couldn't clear my head and had to take Benadryl, and that didn't kick in until 5 in the morning.
Oh my God, Ben. Jerry.
Anyway, so yeah, the first time I realized something in particular was when my son was about, I would say he was 7 or 8. At this point, he's still nonverbal. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, and he was 6 actually when we went to the festival down at the UT Heritage Center,
Hmm.
whatever it's called, next to the Hemisphere, and they had all these rides and stuff, and he was happy, um, and he would see other children, like they had a certain area for like face paint or something, and he would go over, but then he wouldn't speak.
Hmm.
Of course, he's nonverbal. He's shy at this point, so I realized, well, he doesn't have the social skills yet, right? So then we walked around a little bit. And then it was a few hours later, like 3 or 4 hours, and like $75 gone, right? And I'm like, okay, we got to go get something to eat. We can't eat here; it's too expensive. We'll probably go to McDonald's or um, some place that he likes, which he liked McDonald's at the time. I'm not gonna lie. Um, so I said, okay, come on, we're going to leave. We got to go get something to eat. And he's like, at first he's okay. But when we walked out of the doors, he started having a tantrum. He started acting out, no, 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 I don't want to leave, kind of thing. But he's not verbalizing it. He's just
Acting.
screaming and kind of, I'm holding his hand. He's trying to go back into the venue. And, a lady walks over, kind of goes, is everything all right? And I said, yes, my son, he's on the spectrum. And she's, oh, yeah, our son is too. So, anyway, at that point, all of a sudden, I'm like, I've never really had this type of an outburst.
Hmm.
So, I'm trying to think. You're standing on the street, and you're in public. Your son's having, or your child is having a behavioral response to something that you never had before, and it's like all these things are running through your mind, right? So, you're like, okay, what do I do? I can't. I don't have anything to offer him.
Mm.
I have a dollar bill, and I'm like, come on, here's a dollar. We can go to, Walmart. You can buy a little toy, and that kind of catches his attention. I know it's like bribing, or I forget
Hmm.
what the conditioning term is for rewards.
Hmm.
Um, for bad, and to me, it wasn't bad behavior. It's just his mindset.
Hmm.
Some people say that type of a reward system for bad behavior just increases it.
Hmm.
So I give him the dollar bill. He's all happy, and all these people were looking at us, and now they're going away, and you're going away. But the stigma with the parent that sticks in a lot of parents' minds afterwards is a because you're focused on your child at the moment, but then when you're in that quiet time, you're like, all of a sudden you've got embarrassment, sadness, your self-confidence is low because what did I do wrong? How could I have handled it better? I probably look like a terrible parent. It's all image, right? So um anyway, that's a little bit way off of what you asked, but it's kind of to the point.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that, Jerry. So we're gonna like with that comment, let's kick that off, right? We didn't even talk about how we feel, right? And I think that's really important to
uh,
address, even though this is a workshop about behavior in schools. The
right.
reality, right? There is like a home reality and then there's a school reality, right? And I think you
Mhm.
bring up a good point with your comment is that a lot of the times we're trying to figure it out ourselves how to handle this at home, right? And we might already have a system that works, but
Mhm.
that system might not be transferred to the school, right? That system, I mean, the teacher's not going to bust out a dollar, right?
No.
So
Right.
a lot of the times, like I want to number one honor that you brought up our parent emotions and our feelings, and that's a whole other class, to be honest, right? That's why we have our support groups as well, because we don't get to talk about that a lot. We talk about, how to navigate, how to do strategies in school and stuff like that. But our parent groups are focused on ourselves as well because we cannot continue to function if we're not talking through like strategies ourselves, right, to cope when our kids are throwing a tantrum at HEB. And I won't. I'll kind of cut it there because if not, I can get into tangents. But I remember a time when he threw a tantrum at HEB and we never went back. Like we didn't go back for 3 years until I figured he could handle it, right?
Right.
Um, and that's a lot of what we internally face. Nobody knows that. Like,
Mm-mm.
no, Jerry, what you said, nobody knows that, right? We are just mentally struggling with it ourselves. So I just, number one, want to honor your emotions and feelings as a parent there. And number two, let's tie it back into the school discipline, right? Because what we try at home might not work at school. And that's where we're getting into trouble, right? Because we're not having a great conversation about how to create a robust behavioral plan that's going to be consistent with the methods that you've possibly used at home. But then remember, at the school table, right, and at the ARD where your committee is there, their job, and don't forget this, right? Their job and your job in that meeting, in that moment in the school, is for you all to come up with the best strategies, the best ways to support your children so that they can navigate their assignments, their transitions, their peers, right? And don't feel bad when you ask your team because they're a team of experts, right? Everybody at that table gets paid a very good salary. I mean, it could be better, but that's another thing. But
Right.
they're there because they've learned, they're experts, they've taught, right? They've taught a lot of other students, they've learned a different kind of strategies, and they're there to help you figure out what the best way is. Now, does it always play out that way? No. When you're at that table, you're hoping that they're going to be like, yeah, we can do this and we can do that. Usually it's really hard to even get them to talk to you about the behavioral plan, right? So it does take finesse. It does take advocacy, right? As a parent to be like, I'm open to hear you out. It sometimes feels like you're putting them on the spot, but the reality is that's what they're there for, right? So I want to take that little grain of Jerry and say, at the end of the day, we need to make sure that those systems that we're doing at home that might or might not work for us at home, how do we do this in school so that it's successful for our kids in behavioral, right? Does that make
Oh,
sense?
yeah,
Cool.
absolutely. Yeah, just on another note, really quick, because the behavioral plan, the behavior that you experience in that moment, like the behavior I experienced in that moment, I never equated it to an experience that he would, or a reaction or a behavioral issue that he would have at school.
Hmm.
And I think it took like, let's see, he was in the first grade when that happened. So I think it was in the third grade that something similar happened in school. However, the teacher, or I think it was an aide who gave him a chocolate chip cookie because he loved chocolate chip
Hmm.
cookies, to kind of calm him down.
Hmm.
And it was, and that actually kind of passed over me at his next art. I just kind of completely forgot about it. And the thing about the arts for everybody is that everybody, well, all the parents or guardians who attend these, it's always 4 or 5 instructors or school members or whatever, and it's the parent alone. So
Hmm.
I have actually um, tried to figure out how I would be able to participate and encourage parents to take advantage of the Mind Shift Ed advocacy program, and to have someone from the program with them, or if not, then another family member, just
Yep.
someone else. Because when you're in that situation, you're facing 4 or 5 people, and they're all throwing all the, because you go from one person to the next to the next, and in between they'll ask you, do you have any comments or anything, and then you're like still trying to
Gaming. Yep.
process what you just discussed, and they jump into another discussion, right? Or they move on.
Well,
They
they
move
move on.
along.
Yep. And I want to bring that up. And just like as a tip, right? Tips for parents, like yes, 100% take somebody with you. Never go alone. And don't just have them sit there, right? Have them help you take notes. Have them record the meeting. Because a lot of the times, like Jerry says, they're like flipping the pages and you're like, wait, wait,
Mm-hmm.
wait. I wanted to, wait, hold on, right?
Right.
But even more so, as an advanced advocacy tip for you all, send an agenda. That really works. And like it's like, what is an agenda, right? Okay,
Right.
you know ChatGPT. ChatGPT will help you create an agenda based on your IEP plan. Usually, there's 2 ways you can ask for it. You can ask a district to send you an agenda for the meeting so that you knew what they were gonna like step by step what they're gonna do. They
Mm-hmm.
typically don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
But even better, as a parent that's advocating and prepared because we know what we are going to ask or what we need, you send your own agenda items, right? You be like, that's fantastic. Here's what I want to talk about, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's an advocacy step that's additional to your common parent, right? So
Right.
take notes because I know some of you all have already been in meetings with me, or you've taken some classes, or maybe you're new to Mindshift Ed, but at our goal is for you all to be successful at these meetings and learn all the pieces that you need so that you can make an educated decision for your child and their plan. I'm going to move us on so that we're not stuck. But code of conduct is important, and every single district has one, right? They're
Right.
all, I would say, very similar. But they do adapt it to their needs. Sometimes they're also interpreting what their needs are. But I want you all, if you're able to, I know it's like a challenge sometimes when it's Saturday and we're like cooking and doing all the things, but if you're able to, go find your code of conduct right now, right? Like go into your district website, and I put some like little keywords here. Every single website has a little
Oh.
search. Find the little search button and then put code of conduct. You could put discipline, you could put suspension, you can put students with disabilities, you could put bullying. See what comes out. But what the school uses for any discipline is going to be the student code of conduct. And why I recommend you go find that, because that's going to be your principal document that they're going to address, right? They're going to use this as leverage of this, or these are the rules, right? A lot of the times when when your child has a disability, they're going to say it doesn't matter because on our rules and our code of conduct, we still have to do this, this, and this, right? So then you have to know that this is accessible to you. This is a document that's open to the public. They're not going to hide it. It might be hard to find, but it will be there. And I suggest if you are AI users, if you use ChatGPT or you use Gemini or any of those, you start your own little case or project on there and you upload that student code of conduct, right? You want to add that in there because that'll be the basis of any questions that you're using as far as Texas discipline or Texas standards. So go ahead and do that. That'll be your homework. That way you are able to know what's going on in their schools. Discipline and legal protections. So there is special protections for your children if they have an IEP or a 504. And it's important that you know that because it's additional protections from your general code of conduct. So they cannot be punished, without analyzing. And I'm sorry, it says he cannot be punished, but your child, right? And I think this was translated from Spanish. So they cannot be punished unless they have like a meeting, right, to establish if this was part of the disability or not. And this only happens when your child gets disciplined for more than 10 days. And it does sound like a lot, right? 10 days, but a lot of our kids have been put into in school suspension for that amount of time for something they've done. Usually it's aggressive behavior, like they hit a child or something like that. That's when they give them a lot of days. Um, but it's important that you know this resource that's here. I put SPED Text, and it's a special education information center. Yes, you can always call us and we can try to help you and figure out the different resources. But Texas actually has a home base where you can go when your child has a disability, and they're actually pretty informative. I don't know if anybody here has used SPED Text before. If you haven't, you want to say something, please let me know or come off mute. But SpedText is one of those places where you can call in Spanish or in English, ask your question about your situation, and then they will ask you clarifying questions, and they will find information that is part of the law, part of Texas schools. They will send you links so that you can know more information, and it's really helpful. So if you all haven't heard of it, seen it, or are not registered, because you should have an account, SpedText is the place to go. They have a ton of things that you can look into, and they can guide you as well. I've used it, and let me go back before I move in. A tip that I've used many times, and it's been very helpful for me when a school is giving me pushback and I'm trying to advocate for something, and I've already gotten some clarification. I reached out to SpedText. They gave me information. So in the next meeting when I show up, that's my evidence as a parent. So I say, according to SpedText, this is what they sent me, and I send it to them, right? And I said, this is what they said. This is what they said you should be doing. And sometimes they just can't look away once you're really addressing it like that. So a good tip is to inform yourself, have that evidence and the data, and then you share it with your committee saying this is what they actually said that we're supposed to be doing. A lot of the times our district staff, they're not used to parent involvement like we do, right? We are those parents that show up and we're like, no, show me the data, no this, no that, right? A lot of the times parents don't know their role in these committees. So whatever the district says goes, and parents sometimes are okay with that. And I'm here to tell you that that's not the way to advocate, right? You have to inform yourself, bring in data. We're not just talking with hot air, right? We're actually talking because we have data and information that backs us up. So SpedText is one of those that you can use. Here's just a quick little ladder. It's not the best ladder, but I hope it makes sense. When you get into an incident, right? Let's say a child hit another child. The incident will happen. They're going to give them an initial discipline. So sometimes they're going to call you and they're going to suspend your child, or they're going to put him into in-school suspension, or he went to the principal's office, right? That's the initial discipline. If the issue or the incident is something big, and again, it's very up to the administrator to decide how much. And I think these are the questions that we should be asking as parents, right? Like, how do you determine how much discipline to give a child, right? Based on these different incidents. What is the criteria they're using to base their punishment, right? I'd have a lot of questions. I still haven't gotten a proper answer. as far as I know, districts don't have a criteria or a sheet that says like this is how much you give a child. They use their own discretion, and that's part of the problem, right? Because it's never equitable. It's never the same, but it also our kids are very different and their issues or incidents are going to vary. So I'd be curious what they use. And just another thing that I know during doing this work and asking these questions, how are they trained, right? When an administrator gives out discipline for a situation, how are they trained? I've heard that they're all trained and they can all do disciplinary actions, but it's very vague and it's not very focused on children with disabilities. And so those are questions you would want to ask, and I would encourage you to ask if you have had a discipline situation, right? Ask the how, the what, the who, and the why, right? Like never stay without these answers, especially when it matters for your kiddos, because at the end of the day, the ones that are paying the price are your kiddos. So if it's a 10-day suspension or in-school suspension, it becomes serious, right? Then they have to go into a meeting that's called MDR, a manifestation determination meeting. This meeting is with your art committee. It typically, well, the ones that I've seen aren't the full committee. It's only a school psychologist, it might be a general teacher and a sped teacher or a coordinator, and then mostly it'll be a district special education supervisor or admin, right? They're in this meeting. In this meeting, they're supposed to determine if the incident was a part of the student's disability. So in this case, in the example that I gave you guys, the student was riled up during transition. The student has ADHD. He pushed the door. The teacher was behind the door. The door got slammed. The teacher got hurt. He went to jail, right? That's really what happened, like legit. So in that case, right? We have to go back into this meeting and say, okay, what happened? Were we following the IEP? Was there supports for him during transitions? And that's where you start discussing with your committee or those people that are there to determine if it was a manifestation of his disability or not. Okay. And MDR is another type of ARD. That's all that is. Okay. And you won't know it until it happens to you. So I just really wanted to make sure you knew this term. Um, in some cases, and I want to say in Edgewood, and I love that Dora popped up because she's in Edgewood. In some cases, in Edgewood in particular, I've had a lot of these cases, and Edgewood tries to have a hearing for the discipline before the manifestation determination. And that doesn't seem right to me, but there isn't any policy or like any language in policy that says they can or cannot do that. But you can advocate for it and you can ask them to have a determination meeting before they actually do a hearing. The hearing is to determine if the 10 days were enough or if he needs to be moved to an alternative school or somewhere else. So I think that's really important to flag, but I'm going to let Dora come on here, come off of mute so she can add anything she knows. Go ahead, Dora.
I so one thing I did learn helping with families that I'm working with, this was north side, I believe, or northeast side. I don't remember what district it was, but there was an incident where it was substitute teacher, and of course, not all substitute teachers know, how many kids they have there with IEPs or 504. So that's another thing that we kind of push to make sure that every time that there's a substitute teacher, that a teacher leaves notes like, hey, these are the kids that are on IEPs, these are the 504s, these are the reactions, these are, certain things to look out for. So that incident moving forward went into these kids were kind of playing around, and then it escalated. And this kid that has an IEP in place had already told him, leave me alone, and didn't work, and told his substitute teacher, substitution didn't really do nothing about it. So he pretty much like pushed him, and then like they kind of started playing around, and he kind of like wrapped his hand around his neck. So the other mom was trying to press charges, and then it escalated to him going to juvenile center, which I had mom called me when the situation was going, tell him like, advocate for him, like they shouldn't have escalated that far, and tell him instead of sending him to the juvenile detention center, he needs to go either to Clarity Laurel Ridge or San Antonio Behavioral, which they didn't. They ended up sending it to the juvenile um, place, and it's hard because they don't have protocols or anything in place to help these kids. So it makes it even worse on them because if they have a bad encounter there, it's going to give them anxiety next time. Who knows? They might outburst and get even over like stimulated and stuff, and something can happen to them there. So that's another thing to advocate for. So if there's like a situation where your kids, they're saying that they're going to get sent to juvie, make sure you advocate to send them to a mental health hospital because if it's on the IEPs that they have like different um, mental health issues or IEPs, autistic and stuff, these detention centers don't have
Yeah.
the equipped or the people to be able to work with them,
Yeah. Love
and
that.
also have a paper trail to whoever made the decision to send the child to a juvenile detention center. Make sure that it's known on paper trail, so in case that if it does escalate, they are able to. You as a parent are able to advocate for your child, like you had already told the teacher or the officer or the administration staff that that you had voiced it, but they denied it. Just in case if there's something that's secure out of it, you have that paper trail. Paper trail is always the best thing to do instead of he said she said, because most of the time the districts are going to say, "Oh, I didn't say that."
Yeah, 100%. And thank you for that. And I know you're busy, so I appreciate your comment. And then I see Ariamna in a minute. I'll have you come off, but I do want to double down on what Dora said here. There's a couple of pieces, right? A lot of the times, I don't even know. Sometimes I lose my mind because I feel like a school should be able to work with a parent to come up with a best solution on like how to address some of these things, especially when we know it's related to behavior, but it doesn't happen that way. And like, I'm not here to like, I'm sorry to burst your bubble. No, I think we all know this already. Like, we've had a lot of serious issues with our kids, right? And you don't know until you're there. And it's unfortunate, but a lot of the times they just decide to discipline without thinking about it, even though you're an involved parent, even though you might be a phone call away and you've told them, right? Like they just do what they do, and they don't care because they really don't have any accountability, to be honest. And one of the things that Dora said is do a paper trail, right? A lot of the times, and this is a tip number 1,000. I don't even know how many tips we're going to give out here, but a lot of the times the school will call you. They'll call you, leave you a voicemail. They won't send you anything in writing, and they'll call you and tell you, X, Y, and Z, and then, or you're gonna call them, or you show up at the school and you tell them something in person. But the problem with that is that's never on the record, right? Like you don't have a paper trail. You're not documenting whatever happened. And it's important that you, as a parent with a student that has high needs, learn that this is part of the way that we have to track things. We have to document everything. And if you're not good at Gmail, then get good at it, right? We're here to help you. We're here to ensure that you have these tools, because that's the way you're going to keep track, right? Sending an email. If somebody called you and they said X, Y, and Z, you're going to send an email and say, thank you for calling me at this time, this person, this is their email, this is what you said, and this is what I don't agree with, right? And just document it. It's hard because it's an extra thing that you have to do. And I know that we all have lives and we have, even with their kids and their needs, right? But at the end of the night, when they go to sleep, or in the very early in the morning when you wake up and they're not awake, send your emails. It's important that you have a timestamp. It's important that you document everything. Okay, Ariamna, tell me what you got to say. Thanks.
Hi, good morning, Mari. I just wanted to mention something real quick since I saw another mom. She commented about the Laurel Ridge. I just want to tell you guys this because I saw this on the news recently, so that they know if they have to go there. It says on the news that Medicaid, Medicare, and other insurance are no longer in contract with Laurel Ridge.
Hmm.
So now they'll only be accepting private insurance. I don't have Medicaid or none of that. We have private insurance, but I just wanted to let the parents know just for in case,
Awesome.
just
Thank you.
ahead of time, so they don't have to waste their gas and time. And then when you are there, then they'll tell you after waiting a long period of time, oh, we don't accept your insurance. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Ariamna. And that's true. I just saw it too. I think I shared it, but I know that something in the news came out about Laurel Ridge not being either investigated or something to that effect. But yeah, be in the know, right? Because Laurel Ridge and Clarity are places where it's mental health for kiddos. You had something to add there, Dora?
Yes, a lot of them don't even tell you too that they have programs or private people who are willing to pay for it. So always ask or tell your parents, like, even though they don't have Medicaid, because there's a lot of our kids that don't either qualify for it or don't have it, period. They do have funding too, where they're able to cover the expenses, especially at Clarity. If anything too, that's like the best one I would recommend to take any kid, because working in the mental health, Law Ridge isn't that great in behavioral health either. And working with families and our consumers, the kids tell us like everything that happens. So far, Clarity has always been the one on top, and it is always like super super packed because that's where everybody goes. But they do have funding there to be able to cover for costs, just in case you don't have any Medicaid or anything like that. And also too, if y'all want to go through services, the Centers for Healthcare Services does have funding. If you don't have insurance, that they'll help you get insurance as well too with them. And they have so many different programs for all types, even in parents too. And then if y'all qualify for some of y'all be able to get like a family partner, which is what I do. A mental health care specialist is also part of my job description. We help strictly parents help navigate the systems, helping with their IEPs, helping them self advocate and be self sufficient to be able to learn the school systems to help these kids as well.
Thank you, Dora. Appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, maybe some of us don't even know what those are. Just I want to put it out there, right? To say, um, when our kids need extra support that we maybe don't know how to manage, or it's an incident that causes severe concern. A lot of the times I've heard when kids are talking about suicide, things like that. Clarity, Laurel Ridge are very common places where they send our kids. And so that's what these ladies were talking about, just so that you all know. All right, let's get back to our content and talk a little bit before we move away from this slide, right? There will be a hearing if your kid gets a disciplinary action for more than 10 days. Sometimes they're going to suggest that he goes into another alternate school, which, you know, you never want for a kid that has or needs stability, right? And so that's really difficult. But what you want to try to avoid is that, right? You want to determine if it was part of his disability or not. And again, you know your child best, right? So if you know that this is something they did, and a lot of times our kids are really honest. They will say, I hit the kid because he bullied me for 10 times, right? And that's really common for you all. And it's important for you all to know too that a lot of the times our kids are being bullied. I've even heard parents having their kids submit that they were being bullied at school, yet nothing gets back to us as parents. We don't find out until something really bad happens where the child reacts against the bully, and then the one that gets the punishment is our children. And so it's very common, more common than you think. I think it's important that that's when you start asking the real questions about, well, how come nobody told me? If my son reported it, why didn't we do anything, right? And then that you have a line of defense. But if you don't know anything about it, it's going to be really hard for us to even figure out where it started, right? We talked a little bit about the MDR, what it means, manifestation determination review. And I just wanted to give you these simple points, right? Typically the district does not want to admit that they failed to implement an IEP. I think that one of the places that we're kind of in the dark or a gray area is when a IEP does not have a robust or a very clear process for behavior, right? That's when we're like in the gray area because the district is going to say, well, we did our IEP, but it wasn't in there, but we did it, so we're not at fault, right? But we are trying to determine that there's something missing, right? Okay, well, maybe because we didn't have a clear behavioral plan. So now we need to make an adjustment, or maybe we need to evaluate our kids again, right? So that's really the great part is, did they do it or did they not do it? But the biggest important part of it is, what are we going to do now, right? What changes are we going to make in his IEP so that this doesn't happen again and we're protecting our students, right? And that's where you come in as a parent advocate. A disciplinary hearing, like I told you a little bit before, that is a formal meeting with this when the school decides if they're going to prolong the suspension, change the placement, or give expulsion to the kids. This is more serious than a regular meeting, and you don't want to be in this position, right? A lot of the times, I've seen that kids are getting accused of doing an action, but there is no evidence, right? That's really common as well. A lot of the times, there is incident reports that are not shared with you as a parent, and then when you're asking about the incident, they don't want to give you the information, or you have to fill out a PIA request, which makes it even harder because it takes days for you to get the actual evidence. I've heard kids getting accused on video, and they don't show the videos to parents. Sometimes parents fight that, right? And they do get to see their videos. I think one of the most important things is always like, did they do it or did they not do it? And show me the evidence. A lot of the times, I've seen that the district will only have the teacher as the witness. And I mean, that's just one person, right? Sometimes they don't even get the evidence from the child. Like they don't even get a statement from the child that actually did something. And so it's important for you to check all those boxes before you come into these spaces. Any hearing, any MDR, you all need evidence, right? That's just plain and simple. You need data and you need evidence of what happened. And you also need to ask, how did they take care of it? What were the steps that you did as a responsible adult to ensure that my son was safe and had a plan in place for behavior? And if they can't answer that, then it sounds like you all need to make a plan or a better plan. Okay. Um, this usually happens after very big, serious incidents. Examples could be they threatened to shoot the school, they threatened to kill someone, they put down the fire alarm, they hit somebody by accident or on purpose, they hit the bully, they slammed a door and they hurt someone, they threw a desk and they hurt someone, right? Those are examples of possible incidents that are serious. And then when a teacher says that she's feeling unsafe or at risk, they can flag that as a serious issue as well. It's super important. Like I said, there is no documentation, but we've advocated for MDRs to be before a hearing. My suggestion to you is put it in writing and say that you don't agree to have a hearing before determining if it was part of their disability. Advocate for that, right? We talked to sped techs. There isn't anything, they can interpret it, but their suggested method is to have an MDR first before they do a hearing. And that's the tactics that we use. We also mentioned IDEA, which is part of our national law, right, federal law, in our emails to make sure that they know what we're talking about. I think the other thing that we are still trying to figure out, because this is a question that has been coming up a lot more, is what happens if we determine that it was part of the disability, but they already gave our kids jail or suspension for 20 days or whatever it was, right? Do we get compensation for that? Do our kids get compensated if it was determined that it wasn't an actual proper discipline for them? That's up for question, right? So if anybody knows that part, that's what we're going into with a couple of cases right now, is once that determination is done and we determine it was part of the disability, what happens with the discipline that the child has already been given if if it wasn't appropriate, right? How do we make that up to the kids? I would suggest compensatory, but we've never been there, so I'll keep you posted in the next ones to see if we get anything to compensate for that. But at the end of the day, remember, we have taken out the student from their environment. We've taken them out from the learning that was the routine. So they're the ones that are going to get hurt if these situations happen. And another tip is, if your child understands that that they're doing something that's causing chaos or that's causing incidents to happen, try to see if you can talk to them, because this could lead to jail, right? And a lot of the times our kids don't realize that what they're doing can cause them to take some serious actions. Just flagging here some common mistakes. We've talked about it a little bit, but just so that you guys are aware, right? If you're hearing the district saying it was his fault, it was his decision, he knew what he was doing, she was doing it on purpose. If they don't want to review their IEP, if they do not have documentation that's supporting it, if they're suspending without considering their disability, these are all things that are red flags for us as parents, right? This could be a violation of your rights. Make sure that you know some of those protections. A little bit of what Dora had mentioned, right? How to protect your kids, document everything. I cannot tell you enough. That is my number one tip for parents. Document it. And by that is send an email to them. Copy your friends, copy your partners, copy whoever you need to copy somebody at MindShift. The more I would say don't bombard it with email copies, but at least a couple of people so they know you're not the only person dealing with that and seeing this, right? So it's just a little strategy tactic there. Request all the meetings in writing. Request the MDR yourself if you haven't heard from them. And you can ask, right? Like, what supports were in place? Was the IEP followed? Don't assume anything. Always put it in writing. Oh, I love this one. Let's see who can read it for me. It's more powerful from you all. Jerry, go ahead and read this for me.
Welfare. I don't lose power when I calm down. I gain clarity.
Yes, sir. It's hard when you're Latino, period, because we are fiery, right? And we can get upset and we can get angry. And you start, sale lo west side, south side, Laredo, right? Wherever you guys are from, right? Te sale lo Latino. But it's important, right? That we use Nelly's like, yep, te sale lo Latino. You know what that means, right? The hood comes out. But you need to control the emotions, right? Yes, it is our kids. Nothing's going to change that. But it's important that you calm down in these situations, in any of these meetings, because you gain clarity, right? You gain understanding. You gain your next steps, right? So mouthing off, being pissed off and saying, I'm done, I'm out, I don't care, I don't want to hear you, right? You're not going to gain anything from that. So my suggestion to you to protect your own self, right? You can have your moment of being upset, crying, and screaming.
Sí.
Call me. Literally call me. We'll talk about it. But in those moments, you don't lose your cool. In those moments, you are asking questions. In those moments, you're documenting. In those moments, you're starting a case, right? And think about it like that for anything. How do I document this if I'm going to go into a case where I have to going with lawyers and stuff? We might not get there, but start thinking in that way because you're documenting, you're proving evidence, you're collecting data, you're gathering information, you're asking questions, you're asking for clarity. And that's the most important part when you're dealing with these situations.
Maribel,
Dime.
sí, es que no sé hace cuánto salió, yo apenas lo vi ayer, una niña diciéndole a su mamá llorando que ya no quería regresar a la escuela, porque otra niña que Victoria no se había burlado de ella y luego con los demás y habla de la técnica de la tortuga. Yo nunca había escuchado sobre la técnica de la tortuga y es para eso, para calmarse. Y me puse a averiguar sobre la técnica y sí, dice la técnica de la tortuga. Cúbrete como tortuga, respira, exhala despacio hasta 10, cálmate. Si estás frustrado, no puedes regular tus emociones, eso te va a ayudar a autorregularte y ya luego vas a pensar con claridad.
I love it. Well, something for you all to research, other piece of your homework. What is the turtle method, right? Dice, es un método de tortuga, which I love, and I'll translate it for you all if you don't know Spanish, but Nalisa's saying that she realized that there is a technique, right, where you kind of cover yourself, regulate yourself, breathe up to 10, right, count to 10. And she's like, yeah, I looked at it and it makes sense, right? It does. And know that in any of these meetings, oh, and I always think about power, right? Where do you have the power as a parent? In any of these meetings, you can say, I need a moment. and you can walk out of that meeting and take, can I just step out for a minute? I need a minute. Like, that's okay to do. And that's actually a really good strategy when you're not sure what to do in that situation and you need to kind of compose yourself. You can do that. And it's really weird. And I dare you all, like, I ask you all to do it next time. It's powerful. It's scary for us, but they don't know this, right? You don't have to tell them all the things. But it's so powerful to say, you know what? I'm going to pause you all right now, and I need a moment to compose myself and just, and then they're going to say, like, okay, okay, that's fine, and then walk out. Just take a minute. It's just a minute. But that is also really powerful for you. It's really grounding for you. You get to reset the room. And that's just a good little tactic. So I appreciate that, Nelisa. It's really normal to feel, and I'm sorry because it's
Maribel,
dime, Dorothy.
sorry to cut you off.
No, you're
So
good.
I'm listening to you in the car, pero a comment came up where, okay, if you say, I'm going to take a minute, and then they say, no, because I still have a meeting afterwards. Still going to continue. We still have to continue the meeting.
No,
My response was like, no, I'm going to
no.
take my moment,
Yeah.
and I will come back. So what
Yeah.
is your suggestion on that?
Oh, well, this is my time right now, right? So you know what, you and me are in the same kind of like side of mind, right? So to me, it's never acceptable. Like, I need a minute, and I'm being kind, and I'm asking you all, that I can step out for a minute. But if you tell me no, I'm still gonna take my minute because you don't control me, right? So at the end of the day, that's your power. Don't let people take your power away, right? They might tell you something like, oh, it's because, well, I'm sorry, but I need the minute now, and I'm still gonna take my time. And if we don't finish our meeting and you have to rush out of here, we'll just schedule another meeting. Like, not a problem, right? But make sure when that happens, right, after that meeting and they said no and you still took your time and whatever, you be sure I'm gonna send an email saying, during the meeting, I felt that you were rushing me in my meeting, that you limited my time, and you didn't give me a time to regulate, although I still took it, right? But you would document it, right? So I would just suggest telling them, oh, well, I appreciate you telling me that. I do feel like you're rushing my time, but this is my time to actually go step out and regulate. Because if I don't, you don't want to know, right? Like, you just kind of want to say, if I don't, well, this might not go the way that we all want. That's how I would say it, Dorothy. And I know you would. I know you would still do what you got to do, right? At the end, that's what I want everybody here to do, right? That's why,
Right.
so test it. Just test it for fun. Like, be like, oh, my shift had told me that I could do this strategy. Let me see if it works. And I bet you either you're going to get an okay or you're going to get a no, but you're still going to get your break. So try it. It's good for you. It's powerful. So it's normal to feel discouraged. It's normal to feel fear, frustration. But really, if you're guiding this meeting with emotions and anger and frustration, you're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to get anywhere. So it's important that you regulate yourself and take care of yourself. A lot of the times, we as parents also have disabilities that we might not know, or we're just discovering now because we're like, oh, I see that too in me, right? We need to be accepted too, right? We're not bringing our problems to the table. However, if I need a moment, and because my ADHD is kicking in and I'm just all over the place, I'm going to take that moment. So just think about that too, right? And you can also approach it that way. Actually, I feel like I have a disability and I need a moment. What are they going to tell you? I mean, they can say no, but you're still going to do it. All right, wrapping it up because we're at time, but today you have homework, right? You choose your avenue, you choose what you can do or what's beneficial to you. Mind Shifted will always give you some homework ideas, but you already had the code of conduct to go find. That was one. Extra bonus points if you have an AI like ChatGPT or any of those, download it on there and start a project for yourself. Um, you can organize your documents. Maybe you already have a case happening, right? You can organize all this documentation, send an email about an incident. You can request information. But at the end of the day, right, it's really whatever is beneficial to you. Save the date because we are having another meeting on, oh, I didn't put the date, but I think it's May 12th, if I'm not mistaken. So save the date for when things go wrong, right? So like we're talking about disciplinary actions, but this next one is about, okay, we're in it and now what, right? We're not getting anywhere. So we're going to talk about early intervention when things go wrong with the district or your school or your principal or anything like that. A lot of our focus this year is driven by complaints and grievances. A lot of the time, when you approach a district, especially like us as an organization, and we want to find out, or we actually have a lot of evidence from parents that are saying that these things are happening. When we approach the district says, nothing has been reported. TEAs did not say anything. So that's the key for us, right? Our key for Mind Shift Dead is you need to report it. If it's not reported, it never happened. If it's not reported, they're never going to make anything change. Um, so a lot of our workshops this year are focused on you ensuring that you're not only documenting everything, but that you're able to file a complaint, a grievance, and put it out in the universe. A lot of you all come to me and say like, I didn't know it happening to so many people. Yes, it is. But because we're not documenting, because it's an extra layer that we just don't have time for sometimes, you're never going to know. So my key for you all is report that these things are happening so that these issues come to light. Okay. So if you want to know about early intervention, and one thing we're already in the fight, right, in your case, that's what we're going to talk about in May 12 at 10 a.m. I'll be adding some more dates for weekends and evenings. But like I mentioned to you guys, make sure that you're following up on um, our social media, on our Facebooks. Um, Add yourself saying you're going to come to the event so that you get alerts. If you have a calendar email from us and you don't accept it, you're not going to get notifications. So integrate yourself, go to our website. At the very end, if you don't know how to do any of it, just message us, text me. I'm going to put my number in the chat, and I can get that information to your cell phone. But I think that's the best thing that you can do. 956-206-8617. You can always call, text me. And that is it for today. I'm going to stay for a little bit in case anybody has questions, anybody wants to add anything. But thank you guys for showing up today and learning about disciplinary actions. Hopefully this was helpful.
One thing I would recommend is for the people to look at the board policies and look at there's GF,
Local.
a local, and then legal policies. But what I saw on the legal policies, which I don't think a lot of schools are doing, I think it says on there that they're supposed to be reporting like how many grievances are filed a year. So that was interesting to see.
No. Yeah, and we've been trying to get districts to do like a dashboard, like where we can see all the incidents. But of course,
And some of them are not even following their own policy. Like they're supposed to have an actual form. They don't have an actual form on the website. So of course you're trying to make it difficult for everybody to file a proper grievance. So
100%. Coming from a person that's been dealing with a grievance since August, it's almost going to be a year. It's been almost a year. That'll tell you how difficult it is to actually get justice on issues. A ver, Ariamna, did you have something to add? Thank you, Melody.
Well, I just want to say, Mari, thank you for your support and thank you for supporting all parents and helping us out. And I hope you have a great Saturday and God bless you and stay safe and thank you for everything.
No problem. We'll see you soon. Thank you, Ariamna. Anybody else? Oh, vaina Lisa, nada, dices, contenta, cabe. Okay, muy bien. I will be posting this on our YouTube and on our socials. Make sure you're subscribing or share it with somebody that needs to see it. Jerry, I see your chat. It says, I see and wonder why there are never any special education qualified disability people on the boards of education. I mean, something to think about, right? Like, I think a lot, and I'm actually creating, like, I crafted many op-eds already because I want to like put this in the media. But my even wonder is why is there a lot of board members that don't even have kids in the district or kids at all? Like, or kids in schools right now, right? Like maybe they're already like super old people. Um, or have for sure, like maybe if it's even having like a standard, right? There should be two students, two parents, two, I don't know. Me dreaming, of course, but boards that say represent our community are typically not fully integrated or understand our needs. So, yeah, I don't know. I hear you, but hey, if you guys are interested in running for office, right, don't be discouraged. The board members that are there currently, they either don't know anything either, or they're being taught different things that don't help us. So you have a shot because you actually have a kid there. So don't be discouraged. You could probably be a board member. If you're interested, let me know. I can connect you to somebody that can help you with that. But we might have a training coming up soon if you are interested in joining a board or just trying to understand what that means. But I encourage you all to take over your school boards because we are the most affected and least represented. Yeah. Yeah, Ariana. All right. Got you, girl. All right, ladies and gents. Have a wonderful weekend. Happy fiesta. If you don't celebrate fiesta, then happy weekend. Enjoy yourselves, guys. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye
Thank you.
bye.
See ya.